future, shattered dreams.
Hello, friends. This is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, April 9th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. Wow, we got a special guest on the line today, Jody Ledgerwood. She's running for office up there in Canada. Hopefully we can get a Canadian civics lesson from her about that. We have a lot to go over with her. I got hit with a flurry of stuff right before the show. Simon went on Galloway, and Simon gave me the I think he read the last chapter. China's come out with a white paper now about the tariff war, trade war between America and China, and so we'll cover that after Jody. We'll cover this news. A lot going on as usual. Maybe I think it's slowed down a little bit from the first month and a half of Trump, but there's still quite a bit going on. We got King and Queen of England met up with the Pope. They're all still alive. Bless their hearts, right? And so they are having a meeting, and then this crazy stuff they're rolling out. UK government is using AI software to issue pre-crime arrests of people they believe to be future murderers in UK. 2025, I guess we're in the future now. And they're rolling out this dystopic sci-fi nightmare upon us. It's not boring. Let's just say that. So all of that and much more. Let me get to this day in history. On this day, it's a short list. On this day, I guess it started it all, allegedly. Started this whole battle with Britain. In 1768, on this day, John Hancock refuses to allow two British customs agents to go below the deck of his ship, considered by some to be the first act of physical resistance to British authority in the colonies. 1768, John Hancock. 1784, and this is a good day because a lot of big wars ended on this day or were officially ended. 1784, Great Britain ratifies the Treaty of Paris, signed on September 3rd, 1783. Talk about slow moving to end a war, ending the American Revolutionary War. In 1865, the American Civil War here now, Confederate General Robert E. Lee and 26,765 troops surrender at Appomattox Courthouse to U.S. Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant, ending the Civil War in Northern Virginia. Coincidentally, a lot of big wars ended on this day. A year later, in 1866, Civil Rights Bill was passed by the Congress, was passed over by President Andrew Johnson's veto. So Andrew Johnson vetoed Civil Rights Bill passed by Congress. Fast forwarding to 1909, Congress, with all the talk of tariffs today, going back to 1909, Congress passes the Payne-Aldrich Bill, raising tariffs on goods entering the United States. And in 2003, Baghdad falls to U.S. forces, ending the invasion of Iraq on this day. And Happy Unicorn Day. Were they real? Were unicorns real? Happy Unicorn Day. Okay, let's play the segue. Here is the 1995 film, Canadian Bacon. Very telling how the government will gin up a fake war for political reasons.
I have the results from the overnight tracking.
You know, it's not fair. I mean, every other president had all of the Russians to blame for everything. What have I got?
For an unpopular president,
The voters felt that your being alive or dead had no real bearing on their daily lives.
it's time to give war a chance.
Dead.
What are we going to do for an enemy now?
A riot between Americans and Canadians broke out last night.
Now, with a little inspiration,
All I said was Canadian beer sucks.
Give me 1 week and I'll have Americans burning maple leaves.
they'll create a cause worth fighting for.
Is Canadian Prime Minister Clark MacDonald a member of a satanic cult?
Oh, that is stunning.
Canadians are always dreaming up a lot of ways to ruin our lives. The metric system, for the love of God.
Do not panic. I'm in complete control. There's a time to think. There's a time to act. And this, gentlemen, there's no time to think. Move out!
Welcome to Canada.
I'm your worst nightmare.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We got ways of making you pronounce the letter O.
What we have here is a brave but misguided group of Americans who've gone right into Canada and kicked some serious Canadian butt.
Oh, Americans, welcome to Ontario. Sportsman's paradise.
Isn't it, though?
John Candy,
You Canadians are so sneaky.
Alan Alda,
Surrender pronto, or we'll level Toronto.
Rhea Perlman,
What does this look like to you?
Never saw a white one that size.
Kevin Pollak,
When have you ever heard anyone say, honey, let's stay in and order some Canadian food?
Rip Torn,
I can't kill America's neighbors.
I can.
Canadian Bacon, from the director of Roger and Me.
All right, now how did you know that was a nuclear facility?
Well, they tricked us on that one. That's a hospital. But it's a hell of a strike.
Jody, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
So we saw, I mean, it feels like they kind of tell you the truth through fiction a little bit, that the government, U.S. government here will just stage up anything to start a war for political reasons. And we saw that in the film Canadian Bacon there.
I think we've seen that in many films where they'll strike up wars just for any reason. When the economy is on a downswing, they'll strike up a war because war creates money.
And distracts away from all of their crimes and scandals and wrongdoings, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so you are running for office there in Canada as an independent MP, Northumberland-Clarke. What? Explain. I honestly don't know anything about Canadian civics. Can you give us a Canadian civics class refresher course here? What does this even mean? What position are you actually going to take here, or are you running to take?
Okay, so I'm actually running in the Northumberland-Clarke riding. I'm running as an MP. So an MP in
military
Canada.
Police?
I wish I could say military police. No, it just means member of parliament. So in Canada, we have the federal parliament, we have provincial, and then we have municipal. So we have 3 levels of government. So I'm running for the federal government, which is the one that sits down with Trump and negotiates deals. And in Canada, we don't.
Are you sad? We mourned for a couple of weeks on this show that Trudeau resigned.
Am I sad? No. Was I expecting it? Yes. Our country in the last, 10 years that Trudeau's been in power has been on a steady decline in all aspects of our infrastructure, our climate, our economy, our healthcare, our education, our military. Everything has taken a backseat to Trudeau's post-national state agenda that he ran on and won on back in 2014, 2015. So am I sad to see him go? No. I really like Canada, and I like the identity that Canada had at one time. And I'm hoping that we can get Canada back to its core values that it was built on.
Are you guys still under the Crown rule? Like, I've heard that it doesn't even matter who's your government because the Crown can overrule it. Is that true?
Not really. Yes and no. We'll say yes and no. At the end of the day, the crown has to put her stamp on it. It's called royal assent in order for legislation to come into play. So someone comes up with an idea of what's wrong with Canada and they want to fix it, then they bring what's called a bill or an order to the Privy Council. The Privy Council puts their stamp on it. They then put it on a notice. It gets moved from the notice onto an order, and then a motion is made in our Parliament to either accept that bill on the order, and then at any given time in the next session of House, it can be brought forward and discussed and talked about and sent to committee and task force. And once it goes through 3 levels of voting, through the House, then it goes to our Senate. It goes through another 3 levels of voting in the Senate. And if nothing changes in all of those 6 levels of voting, then it goes to the Governor General, who will put her royal assent stamp on it. And our Governor General actually represents the crown, the monarchy, and they will put their royal assent stamp on it. And then it gets published, and then it's magically legislation. So the crown has to stamp every bill that goes through. And I guess if they don't put a stamp on it, then I guess it doesn't become legislation.
Wow. Okay. So kind of, sort of still. What about this new guy, Mark Carney? Isn't he just like he's a big banker, right? Was he at Goldman Sachs and like the Bank of England and like this guy, and nobody voted for him, right? Like, I don't understand how that worked. He just they just said, hey, a banker, Trudeau resigned, and now this banker who cares about everybody he's a great philanthropist, humanitarian, is now your prime minister. How did that whole thing work? Like, there was a vote, but the people didn't get to vote. And then they scream at you, democracy, because you're saying he's a banker. Like, you know what I mean? It's confusing to me.
It would be confusing because down in the States, I believe you get to vote for your president. But here in Canada,
they allege you do. I don't believe it. I don't believe that I don't believe it's legitimate, but they act like it is, and they scream democracy at you. But
correct. Well, here in Canada, we don't get to vote for our leader. We don't get to vote for our representative. So the prime minister is actually chosen by whichever party wins the most votes. So we don't ever, when Justin Trudeau was on the ballot, the only place he was on the ballot was the riding he ran in. So only those people got to choose him. Nobody else in Canada got to choose him. But because the Liberal Party ended up winning the most votes, they get to choose who our prime minister is. And Justin Trudeau is who they chose to be their party leader. Hence, he ended up our prime minister. So when he stepped down, while the Liberal Party was still in power before we had an election called, the Liberal Party went back into their little caucus meetings and they threw all their parties that they had, and they had their little vote in their own party to see who was now going to lead them. So 120,000 people supposedly voted for Mark Carney to now lead our country. So that's how he ended up becoming prime minister. The Liberal Party had a vote within the party, and bam, he's got the title.
And they scream democracy at you if you question it.
Correct.
Don't they all work for like the World Economic Forum, or like a lot of them? Like Klaus Schwab said that I remember back when that was a hot thing with all the tyranny in Canada, people were pointing out the fact that, oh yeah, look, Klaus Schwab said he penetrates the cabinets, and then people made like these nice little org charts that showed all the connections. There's like all these guys in Canadian government that are like good buddies with the World Economic Forum, and it's like, wow, I get he's not lying when he says that he penetrates the cabinets.
He's not lying. Over 50% of our cabinet were young global leaders or are members of the World Economic Forum. So he's not lying. And on top of that, I believe the number, and I might be a little bit off on the number, I believe it's 184 MPs in our cabinet actually hold multiple citizenships to other countries.
So they're totally, They owe their allegiance to Canada then that way, huh?
Apparently.
Wow.
No,
You know
they
what?
don't. And that's the problem.
We have a big problem with the old aardvark dual citizens here. A couple of our congressmen, especially in Florida, are one of them, Brian Mast. I don't know if you saw that. That guy showed up in U.S. Congress wearing an IDF uniform, military uniform, because he served with a foreign military. And it's like, whoa, dude, this is like over the top. You know what I mean? But we seem to have that same problem here with dual citizenship, dual interest. Who do you owe your allegiance to? And I think many of probably all of them at this point, to a foreign country, to the World Economic Forum, to some other interest than their alleged constituents in their district that they're supposedly representing in our constitutional republic, representative democracy, that they say we are governed by the people is what they tell us here. But it's pretty evident that's not the case.
Correct. Because when did the people ever choose a WEF representative or a UN representative? I don't recall ever choosing or voting for us to be signed into the UN or the World Economic Forum, or even the WHO for that matter.
But they're philanthropists and the good guys. So I don't know. I guess we just have to trust the science and trust what they say, right? Everything turned out well with the whole medical intervention, right? They saved everybody's life, they told us.
Well, that's funny. My partner, Chris, and I, we actually did a unredaction of the Pfizer contract. And in section 5.5, which wasn't redacted, by the way, it actually says in there that these are experimental and we don't know if there's going to be adverse reactions. So we can't say that they're safe and effective. And yet that was the mantra that our government fed us month after month after month, when they knew right in the contract, it's in black and white writing, that they did not know.
Anybody that could think, apparently the large majority of people out there can't think. Thinking is a conspiracy theory. Could tell you that they didn't have time to do any long-term. There is no long-term safety data because it's a brand new product. I mean, that's basic facts, but I don't know. Trust the science. Trust the government. They saved everybody. We still don't have a resolution on the whole thing. I don't think we ever will. We see now reports that from the CIA, like we could never trust them. Now they're saying, oh yeah, it definitely was leaked out of that lab in Wuhan. And then I saw a report yesterday that was reported way back at the beginning of the whole thing that, oh yeah, some U.S. military were infected at the military games there in China. Now that's supposed to be, they want us to accept that mainstream. I don't believe any of it anymore because I don't think we ever will know. And then a lot of people still say, hey, it came from the old bat and the pangolin at the wet market. So that's like still the official line as well. So it's like hard to tell, but we're not allowed to talk about it, or we may get banned again because we're not the experts. But the narrative keeps changing from the official story. So I don't think we ever will truly know. They're never going to tell us if it was what it was actually.
No, the only way that we'll ever know is if we get independents in control of all of the redacted, unredacted paperwork. So maybe 100 years from now we'll know, or as I said, we surprise the government with an overthrow of independents voted in. I don't know that we'll ever see that happen, but I'd like to say, yes, that will happen.
Who are you running? Who's in the position right now that you're running for?
So when you run as an MP, you're just running for a member of parliament. So there's currently 336 member of parliaments. So I'm just running to fit in the Northumberland-Clarke seat, and currently Philip Lawrence from the Conservative Party holds that seat.
Is he running for re-election as well?
Yes, he is.
So you're running against him essentially. Is there anyone else running for that seat?
Yeah, so for Northumberland-Clarke, there's 7 candidates in total. 7. So Philip Lawrence from the Conservatives, John Goheen from the Liberals, Lisa Bradburn from PPCs, John Wesserlees, and I'm sure I messed up his name, from the Christian Heritage Party. And there's one more person from the NDP, and I cannot remember who they are.
Are they having public debates?
Oh, Ava Becker from the NDP. That's who it is. They are having some public debates. I actually have a public debate tomorrow in the Brighton community put on by the Line Center. Now, that being said, there are some debates that we are not allowed to participate in because we are not a sitting party. So the Port Hope Chamber of Commerce, even though they represent small businesses, they are holding an meet the all candidates debate. However, only 4 of the candidates are allowed to participate in the debate because the other 3 do not have a sitting party currently in the parliament. We've been invited to put up a booth, but we have been invited to put up a booth silently. So that's how they're doing the meet your all candidates debate. So we are fighting that at the moment. We are sending letters to the chamber membership to ask if they really do believe in censorship or a government body telling you what you can and cannot hear in order to make an informed choice when you're voting at the ballot booth.
That was going to be my next question, but you kind of answered it. Like over here in America, you got to be either a member of one of the 2 major parties or independently wealthy, basically, because it costs so much for these campaigns, which is another ridiculous thing for a job that only pays like what, $200,000 a year, and they're spending millions upon millions upon millions to get this job. It makes no sense unless there's something else going on. But the only way that anyone can afford to even run is you got to be a Democrat, Republican, or independently wealthy. Is it that same way in Canada?
Yes and no. If you are one of the sitting legacy
I mean to have a legitimate chance, because like I said, they just pour millions and millions and millions into it, and it's like no one can compete with that.
Right. Well, as an independent, I don't get any government funding to run. But as a sitting legacy party, you do get funding from the taxpayers to run. So I'm already behind the 8 ball in fundraising. And then trying to convince people that you're worth funding is a whole other can of worms to try and get into. So we are literally running our campaign on a shoestring budget, and I think it's even thinner than a shoestring budget. But we're trying to make a go of it.
Let's beg right now and plug you. Is it your website right here? Is this the best place where people can donate to your campaign?
Yes, we've got the donation information right there on the front page.
Right there for
right there in red. Help support Jody's campaign. E-transfer your support to NJ Lang at proton.me. So that is how you can donate to the campaign, or you can do an in-kind consideration donation, but it cannot be more than $1,750. So we did have 2 people do an in-kind donation with regards to our signs. So that was really, really helpful.
What's the public response to your campaign?
Well, let's see. 3 days ago, we put out about 50 signs in the Cobourg-Port Hope area. And when we drove around yesterday, of those 50 signs that were still standing, I think there was 3, maybe 4 signs still standing. So my signs are being pulled out. The Conservative and PPC signs and the Liberal signs were still standing, but my signs were missing. And today when we were knocking on doors in the Brighton area, and yesterday we were knocking on doors in the Brighton area, I was told, one house actually told me to get off their property because I wasn't running, and another house just said that they love Mark Carney and that he's the way they're going to go. But what at least I had,
they love bankers that much. I didn't realize bankers are that popular in Canada.
Apparently for some people they are. So, but that being said, we knocked on about 400 doors between yesterday and today. And I would say most people were at least respectful and gracious, and they took our card. Some people actually engaged in some conversation with the concerns that they had or what they were seeing. But most people just said, thank you very much, and took the card and smiled, and that was about it. So, yeah.
On your website, you say you want to rebalance power back to the people. Is that possible?
I'm an optimist. I believe it's possible if the people actually wake up to what is going on in our country. And the problem is that a lot of people don't understand that our country is run on a whip system. So people think that when they vote an MP into the seat to represent their riding, that MP will actually go to Ottawa and represent the riding. But what they don't understand is if that MP is part of the party system, which all but 3 were last year or in the last session, they subscribe to what's called a whip system. So they don't actually get to represent their constituents. When they get into Ottawa, the party whip tells them what they're allowed to think, what they're allowed to say, and how they're allowed to vote. So they don't get to be the voice of the people. And that party whip gets their instructions from the party leader, who gets his instructions from the very well-financed lobbyist groups. And a lot of those lobbyist groups are not even Canadian lobbyist groups. They're actually funded by international NGOs.
Wow. So, and they scream democracy the whole time.
And they scream democracy the whole time. And there is not one lick of democracy going on in our house.
That's sad.
So I'm running as an independent so that I can actually be the voice of the people. I'm not beholden to a whip telling me what to do. I'm not beholden to the people paying my paycheck as to what to do. And if I screw up, I know the people are going to boot me out. Whereas if I screw up in the party and don't listen to the people, the party's still there to protect my job. So I don't have to listen to the people. And in Canada, there was a Supreme Court of Canada decision, so our highest court of the nation, made a decision that when we had the GST debate going on, whether we bring in another goods and services tax on the people in, I believe it was New Brunswick, voted for their MP based on the fact that he said he was going to vote against the GST coming in. Well, he won his seat by a landslide. He got up to Ottawa. The vote came down for GST, and his party said, you must vote for it. So he did. He voted yes. And the people of his riding actually took him to court, sued him for not doing as he promised the people in order to get his seat. Well, the Supreme Court of Canada upheld the decision that once an MP takes their seat, they are no longer responsible to the constituents that voted them in. They are now responsible to the party whose seat they're sitting in. And therefore, they no longer have to listen to the people. And that case is the little child, people versus little child decision. So those acting in a party capacity.
Doesn't that beg the question then, why even vote if they are not representing you? Like it's all just, going through the motions for show.
Yes.
Essentially to give you that warm, fuzzy feeling of democracy.
Essentially, yes. And that's why, the only way to change the system is if we stop voting for the parties and start voting for independents. And there are a couple
theoretically, you don't have to vote for a political party. You could vote for you or anybody else that's running, right?
Correct.
So it's really the people. And do you think the people, do they teach? Because your system is very complicated. Do they teach that like in schooling there? Like how do you learn your complicated political system?
Well, when I went through school, they did teach it. I'm 51 this year, and I was taught the political system. My children are now young adults. They were not taught the political system. So there's this illusion of choice going on. And realistically, the only choice you have is what party is going to lead the country. And other than that, every other choice regarding our infrastructure, regarding our laws, is taken out of our hands and put in the hands of those 336 representatives in the House that really just sit down and talk amongst themselves and the very rich NGO lobbyists and decide what's good for the people.
Wow, that's scary. And so they're not even teaching your children's generation how civics in school?
No. And I know when I went through school,
That's shocking, actually. They probably don't teach it here either. I don't know. I get nobody seems to know. Our system's pretty basic, though, honestly, how it's supposed to work. We know it doesn't actually function that way, but how it's supposed to work is pretty basic. Your system's a little bit more complicated, but if they don't even teach them anything about it, then how's anybody going to know?
No, I think they spend, if the kids are lucky, maybe a couple of days on the system, and they say, oh, you've got municipal powers, you've got provincial powers, and you've got federal powers, and we're supposed to be separated. Those powers are supposed to be separated by the judicial and the legislative and the executive. But at the end of the day, what we've been seeing in the last 10 years is there is no separation of powers. When our prime minister or the party that's in control at the moment get to appoint your Senate, and they get to appoint all the judges, and they get to appoint the chiefs of police, then we don't have a separation of powers. What we have is people doing what they're told in order to keep their job, and what they're told is by the party in power. And that's got to change.
It's sad. It's sad, that these government workers, order followers, will literally do tyranny for a paycheck. It's very sad.
Yes.
But we saw it firsthand during the medical intervention, right? I mean, yes. They would literally do whatever tyranny they were ordered to do against the people because the health department said.
Correct. Well, I don't know if it happened down in the States as much as it did up in Canada, but even when our doctors tried to report adverse reactions, their licenses were pulled and they were put under investigation.
Same thing here in California. If you, any doctor, it's so bad here in California, you could have a legitimate medical exemption from injury from a previous miracle, all documented on your medical records. If a doctor here in California gives you a medical exemption, they'll pull their license. It's that bad. They're just mad scientists, maniacs. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know how else to put it. It's not for public health. That's clear.
Correct. And I always say, whatever happened to second opinions? Like, you used to have the option of getting a second opinion. If one doctor said one thing, you could go to another doctor and hear possibly something completely different. Well, that went out the window the last 5 years. Now all doctors must report the exact same thing, no matter what, as per their CPSO. And if they don't report the exact same thing that came down from the CPSO, they lose their license. They get their entire life ripped apart. And not only that, but the CPSO is now pulling patient files. So now the patient's privacy is being violated because the doctor did a bit of research or actually gave a proper opinion on something. So our healthcare system is in flux. We're in big trouble.
We're told by our communist socialists here that it's the greatest thing ever because you have a single payer system and healthcare is a human right. And so we should want that here in America. As bad as screwed up as our system is, they say the solution is go ahead and have Medicare for all, single payer, like Bernie Sanders is one example, but they all parrot the same line, all the commie socialists here. How are you liking your single payer healthcare over there in Canada?
Well, I'll say this.
All aside, let's just put, if we can, I know that's like the event of our lifetime so far, but let's just put aside the medical intervention period over the last 5 years and say before that, how was it treating you before everything went totally insane?
Well, this is what I was going to say. we, at least if we get sick or our child gets sick or they fall and break their arm or something horrible happens, we don't have to contemplate whether we go to the doctor or not, because if we go to the doctor, we're going to get a $10,000 bill, which may not allow us to put food on the table for the next little while. We at least can go, and it typically isn't going to cost us much of anything. We might have to pay for prescriptions after the fact, but most of our care is covered by our one user fee. So I like that aspect of it. But that being said, people run to the doctor for silly things that they really shouldn't be, which clogs up now the artery veins of our medical system. And so now we've got long lineups to actually get critical care that is needed because you've got all these people going to the doctor for sniffles.
Our problem here is we have a bunch of illegal aliens, mostly Mexicans or whatever you're going to call them, Hispanic descent, to be politically correct, here in California. And they don't understand the system, and they are the ones clogging up our system. And they essentially are on free health care because they're on state-assisted health care. They're getting Medi-Cal here free from the state that we can't even fund, by the way. We're in a big old deficit, billions of dollar deficit. And anyway, these people, they come here for free health care. It's advertised by our governor, Gavin Newsom, and they're blocking up the whole system. And like you say, they go for a sniffle, a scraped knee, whatever, and they block up the whole system, and it's hard to access. But my next question was, what do you think of the MAIDS program? Is there any way we can get any of these major political party politicians to sign up for the MAIDS program?
One can dream. Now, MAIDS is a really hard issue for me. And I say that because I really do believe in bodily autonomy. And I don't believe that the government belongs in our bedrooms. And I don't believe the government belongs in our own personal decisions on our own personal health care. That being said, when the MAID program was first brought in, it was brought in for the terminally ill who were on like the last days of their life. There was no cure. There was absolutely no way they were going to turn around in their health circumstances. And it took a year or 2 years to even qualify for MAID. But now our government has made it so easy to obtain MAID that if you're in poverty-stricken conditions, you can get MAID. If you are depressed or anxiety-ridden, you can get MAID. If you're just not having a great day, it seems like you can get MAID. And now it's not a year-long or 2-year-long process to get it. It's literally, some people are being offered it the same day. Some people only have to wait a week or two to get approved for the program. And now they're offering it to teenagers. So when you are now offering it to children who are going through their teenage hormonal life sucks years, and they can get it because they're depressed and anxious or don't know what identity to identify with, that's a problem. We've gone down a really slippery slope here. That's a problem. It is no longer about compassionate care. It's about, you know what, you're having a problem and you're a drain on our system, so let's just ixnay you and we'll harvest your organs for somebody else.
It feels like it's being abused. I saw reports where they're saying if the government declares you mentally ill, which may be anti-authoritarian attitude, then you could be put in the MAIDS program. So it could be an independent running for office that is talking bad about the two major political parties. They could declare you mentally ill and say you're made out of here. You know what I'm saying?
That's the scary part. And we know we've had a lot of people on our own podcast, TFM Report, where they've talked about that, where they were whistleblowers against the government. And what happened is they got scooped up off the street and thrown in mental institutions and called crazy and doped up and all of that. And thankfully, MAID wasn't a thing when these things were happening, but we know these things do happen. And it's just a matter of time before, as you said, the government deems you mentally incapacitated and they decide to MAID you out because you're a useless eater now.
It's very dystopic and dark. We have that same They haven't really cranked it up here yet, but we have physician-assisted suicide was passed into law in 2016 here in California. And I would always tell people, the government wants you dead. And they're like, no, you're just a radical. You're extreme with your rhetoric. And I was like, no, literally, they passed a law. And like you're saying, well, I could see compassion care if it's these extreme cases where these people are suffering with undeniable pain, and they just and it would be humane to put them out of their misery, and they really want it. But we see that it escalates quickly to fast abuse, and then the government says, well, if we disagree with you, you're out of here. You know what I mean? So it's like, wow, that escalated quickly. Okay. Let's go to, you say on your website here, you want to bring back Canadian core values. What are Canadian core values?
Well, at one time, you know, our country actually respected respected communication. We respected each other. We loved each other, and we built this country up on Christian values. We actually have scripture in our House of Commons in Ottawa, right there on the Parliament buildings, saying that this country was built on Christian values, and we were built on immigrants coming to this country, but they weren't given a handout. They actually had to invest in Canada. They had to build the roads. They had to build the schools and the hospitals. And we had this really great country happening. And then somewhere along the line, and I believe it happened in 2014 when Mr. Trudeau ran on first post-national state. And it might even have started happening back in 1972 when his father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, was in power and started signing us into the UN Agenda 21 and started bringing in illegal immigrants and started saying, you know what, we need to be more compassionate to other people, and we need to start accepting their values. And then we started seeing legislation happen in our house that started ixnaying the Canadian identity. And, you know, now all of a sudden, it's not cool to be Canadian. It's only cool to bring in the laws of other countries and have them usurp our Canadian laws that our country was actually built on. So we need to get back to the values that we used to have, the values where we respected each other, where we actually liked each other. And, and you know, and I say this, our government for probably the last 20, 30 years of my adulthood have really pushed the English don't like the French, and the East Coast don't like the West Coast, and the whites don't like the blacks, and the Indians, well, nobody likes them. And when we had the Freedom Convoy in 2022,
those are terrorists, weren't they? Trudeau told me they're terrorists.
That's what he told you, but that's not true. They were actually true Canadians who love this country, who have invested in this country. And we realized we actually love each other. We all have the same values and morals. We all care about the family. We all care about our children. We care about a good education system. We care about healthcare for all. We care about our French English history. And we care about making this country great and living in peace and just wanting to be left alone to have a good life. And, you know, those streets were full of about 3 million people that were hugging each other and loving on each other and taking care of each other. Nobody went hungry. Nobody was cold. Everybody had shelter and food and warmth, and the crime rate went down. Healthcare system actually emptied out. People were well. For those 3 to 4 weeks, Ottawa was a changed place, and we realized how amazing all of these different cultures were coming together under the same love of country and the same love for morals and ethics and values. And our government is doing a really great job at trying to convince us that we hate each other. And it just is not the truth. So we need to get back to that place of love, that place of mutual respect, and that place of Christian values. And I say Christian values, I don't mean Christian religion. I mean, at the end of the day, we all can agree. Don't covet your neighbor's wife, you know, don't commit murder. Let's not lie to each other. Let's be respectful to each other. And let's raise our children up in a place of love and intelligence and respectful debate. And that's what we used to be.
The 10 Commandments. You know, the UK are masters at the divide and conquer balkanization strategy about how to control populations. And we're seeing that come back home here, essentially. They use it in the United States 100%, and they use it in Canada and so on. And I believe they're still using. Why change your strategy if it works? And it definitely does seem to be working. Here you say, who would not vote for Jody? On your website, you say people who believe that doing the same thing that they have always done will somehow bring change this time. It could happen this time. No?
Well,
isn't that the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result?
Yes. And, you know, I've been attacked on social media over this over and over again. Why are you running? Why aren't you running as a conservative? Why do you think you'll win? You're not going to win. We need to, you know,
well, you just explained, so you can be independent, or you have to do what the party says. And so what even is the point? You're just a puppet at that point.
Exactly. But so many people think, oh, we've got to vote the conservatives in to keep the liberals out. And, you know, we're not ready yet. In 4 more years, in 10 more years, we'll be ready. And I keep saying, we keep saying that. We keep passing that torch of destruction and control back and forth between the red and blue coats. When are we going to be ready for change? Because all we do is bitch and chew that we need change. And yet the voters don't change. And if they actually did something different, maybe we would start to see change in this country.
Yeah, keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. That's a definition of insanity. So
exactly. You don't get change by doing the same thing. You just don't. So we got to get out of that fear bubble, that fear of, oh my gosh, if I don't vote for the opposite color, then we're going to get stuck with the same color. No, if you actually vote for someone that can be your voice, then we start the change happening, and the change for the better, not the change for the worse. Right now, we're just voting who's the lesser of two evils. But at the end of the day, evil is evil. So if you don't want evil running the house and making the decisions for your life anymore, then you got to vote outside of that system, and you got to vote for somebody who actually can change things, who can actually represent your voice, and who isn't part of the whip system. It's called a whip system for a reason, and it's not a good one.
You won't be bribed? You can't. Will you be blackmailed? Were you on Epstein's plane?
No, and no.
So there's no blackmail they have on you, nothing like this. You're not going to take bribes if you get in there?
No. Here's the thing. I've been fighting for the last 5 years. I've been very much outspoken and targeted in my community that I'm actually running to represent in. And my business, I am a self-employed realtor. I own my own brokerage, and my business has tanked because I've been speaking out. And if I had just stayed silent and went along with the status quo, I would be a successful realtor right now. But I cannot be bought off, and I'm not going to sell my soul for a vote or for money. And I'm not going to sell my children down the dark rabbit hole for money. It just doesn't make sense, because at the end of the day, if you don't have your life and you don't have your liberty and you don't have security of your person, then what exactly do you have? What's the point? All the money in the world doesn't buy happiness, and it doesn't buy you free will. And we were gifted the opportunity of free will, and I'm not going to let somebody buy that from me.
And you're not taking it with you unless you believe in this transhumanism that you're going to live forever. I don't believe that is true. These quote elites are trying to live forever with their transhuman. Somehow they think they're going to keep their ill-gotten gains through corruption and live forever. But when you die, you're not taking none of this material, anything with you.
Exactly.
Okay, we got Barry, who shout out to Barry Dutton. He set us up with this interview. Thank you very much, Barry Dutton. I see him in the comment section. He's an unofficial co-producer of Weaponized News, helping us moderate the chats and also helping us line up guests as yourself. I got a question from him. He says, how do you feel an independent candidate like yourself would be set apart or be an advantage in this fraudulent system if you get in? I think you answered that already.
I think so, but I know a lot of people say, well, if you get in, you're just one person. So what can you do? You have no power. And I say to people, you can say I'm just one person. What can I do? Well, Hitler was just one person. Terry Fox was just one person. Martin Luther King was just one person. Mahatma Gandhi was just one person. And look what they did. I've been a force to be reckoned with for 5 years. If I get in, I'm going to be using my status as an MP to my advantage. I'm going to be bringing bills to the House for legislation. I'm going to be screaming from the rooftops what's actually going on and what bills people need to know and be aware of, and what's going on behind the scenes, because I can do that as an MP. I can bring the transparency back to the people that we currently don't have. It also gives me the strength or the access to legacy media and CPAC. So as an MP, they have to listen to me. They have to interview me. My voice gets out there. So I can do a lot of damage for people in that house. One voice can be very powerful if you know how to use it. And fortunately for me, before 2020, I was president of the local real estate association and on the board of directors for 8 years. I was president for 3 years, but I was on the board for 8 years. And my job was to lobby the government. And the real estate association taught me really well how to lobby the government and the ins and outs. So I spent a lot of time sitting in MP and MPP's offices, learning the ropes, learning what works, learning what doesn't work. But at the end of the day, learning how to find my voice. Our government institution, RICO, OREA, and CREA, taught me how to be a leader. They taught me how to deal with media. And on top of that, they mentored me for leadership responsibility. So I know the power that an MP has and how to use it effectively to affect change. And like I said, we've got people sitting in the House that are being told what to do by the whip. So they're not allowed to talk about what's going on. They have to remain silent. Nobody is holding me back and handcuffing me and putting bars on my mouth. So I will be a force to be reckoned with. And I have been for 5 years. And I have been for 5 years without any financial compensation. I've been doing it all out of my own pocket. So can you imagine, when I'm funded by the taxpayers, the damage that I can do?
What, you guys have state-funded media there too, right?
Yes.
What is it?
CBC.
That's like state-funded news, right? Like propaganda.
Yes.
And so, but they would have to put you on there and let you say your piece.
You got it. I can let everybody know what's actually going on and what is the purpose behind all these nefarious bills that are being passed in our House that nobody's aware of. You know, and so many times they pass these nefarious bills, but inside other bills that it doesn't make sense. Our economic budget a lot of times has stuff buried, 1,000 pages deep into that actually changes another bill that has nothing to do with the economic budget at all, but it's 1,000 pages long. Nobody's reading that. Well, I've been reading those bills. I'm a bit of a keener that way. I like to read and I like to know what our government's doing. So my nose has been buried deep in these bills for the last 5 years, and nobody's been paying me to read these bills. I've just been reading them and then bringing the information to the people and speaking out loud at rallies and protests and on our podcast and on all my social media channels, trying to get the word out. So, me having an MP title behind my name gives me access to the CBC, where I can actually tell people what's going on. Those who are still indoctrinated into the legacy media channels, I can be on those channels and I can be in their face saying, like, look, this bill 63 that's called online harms bill has nothing to do with actually protecting children. It's about shutting you up. And if you don't shut up, and if they think you're going to say something that might offend somebody else, you're going to jail and a $200,000 fine under your belt. So you might not want this bill passing. You might want to start coming on out to Ottawa and protesting and making life very miserable for these other predators who want to shut you up permanently. We
got a question from Angie via Barry. says, maybe you can phrase this better than me. Oh, she said, government overreach has been limiting food choices and supply. What are your thoughts on food freedom and allowing people to make their own informed choices on what to consume?
She is right. Our government, Trudeau, actually introduced a bill to remove food labels so that we don't know what's actually going in.
Reading the ingredients is a conspiracy theory.
There's an excellent app, and not that I want to promote other things, but I use this app called Yuka. I think it's Yuka, Yuka, and it is amazing. If you don't like to read labels, you just scan the barcode and boof, it tells you what's good in it, what's not good in it, and it gives it a rating of 0 to 100. The closer to 100 it is, the better it is for you to eat, the healthier it is for you to eat. And the closer it is to 0, don't buy it. And I tell you, I've become an avid Yuka fan. I don't buy anything now without scanning it first. And you would be shocked and amazed at how much of our food now has chemicals that are not good for us, has fake ingredients in it, and food that, a couple of years ago was fine to eat. And now you start reading those ingredients and they've changed out the ingredients. And you guys down in the States are worse off than we are here in Canada. I can take the same granola bar here in Canada and what you guys got in the States, and you've got like 10 extra ingredients in yours, even though it's the same company, same make, same everything. You've got 10 extra chemicals in yours, or 5 extra different kinds of sugar in yours than what we have. So our government is working on, or not working on, they passed it where they can remove labels. They don't have to put labels on food anymore, or at least tell you what those are.
That's transparency.
Transparency 101. And also what a lot of people don't understand is, and I was talking to my farmer friend, Ed Embry, before coming on here, and he gives me a lot of what's going on in the agricultural world all the time. We've had him on our show many times. He's a plethora of information. But he was telling me that here in Ontario, we only have 1 beef processing plant. So our farmers, even just to process their beef, are on waiting lists of 2-3 years. They can't get their beef processed.
Same here in Fresno County where I'm at. I bought some beef from a local rancher, and he told me there's 1 butcher, and he wanted to become a butcher. He's like, I'm a rancher. I know what I'm doing, right? He's been in the business, I don't know, 30, 40 years, something like this. And he's like, I filled out all the paperwork with the county to set up my own butcher shop so I could grow up my cattle here, grass raised. They graze in his fields. And he's like, I can streamline the whole process to bring my product to market a lot more efficiently. And I tried to fill out the paperwork with the county, and they said, no, you're not allowed to do that. And I was like, yeah, there you go. So it sounds like the same thing is happening there.
It's exactly the same thing. And we have all these provincial inspectors, and then we've got federal inspectors. And
keeping us safe. They're keeping us safe.
Right? But you cannot sell your stuff to the local supermarket unless you've paid for the provincial and the federal inspections. I'm like, why are we having to pay for 2 different inspections? And so by the time you get through that, what you're actually getting paid at the supermarket is a loss. So we need to work on a better system. We need to work on getting more food processing plants in our country. And then the other thing he was telling me was 90% of farmers' nitrogen, which is used in the fertilizer on the fields, comes from Russia. And nitrogen is a byproduct of natural gas. Canada is very, very rich in natural gas, but our government will not allow us to use our own natural gas for the nitrogen off-feed for our own fields. So when the Russia-Ukraine war became even more engrossed, all of a sudden our nitrogen access to fertilizer from Russia was cut off. And yet we have it here. Why are we buying it from Russia? Putin's the most evil man in the
world. We have to say that for YouTube. Putin's the most evil man in the world. Putin did it. Putin cut off your nitrogen.
Yeah. But really it was our, and that's how our government sold it as well. Russia, they're not shipping to us. It's Russia. The prices have skyrocketed from Russia. But realistically, we have the nitrogen right here. We've got the natural gas right here, but we're not allowed to use it. So how
It's
crazy.
Putin. I'm telling you, it's Putin's fault.
So yeah, there's a lot of things that need to change in our agricultural sector. And another thing our government is doing is rezoning all of our prime agricultural land. We're down to about 5% of prime A agricultural land, and they're selling it to developers for housing. Once that land is gone, it's gone. You don't get it back. And so that's another big thing that's happening is our farmers can't afford to keep their land, and our government is rezoning it so that they can sell it off to foreign, in most cases, foreign developers that are coming in and woof, there goes our food supply.
What do you think about becoming the 51st state, the North American Union? Do you want to be part of the regional one world government here with the United States and Mexico?
No, thank you. No.
But we need a world government for when aliens invade, and so we can unite against the aliens or whatever outside force. We need a world government to protect us from.
I tell you what, if aliens invade, I'm sure the world will unite and fight against them. But I don't think we need the world to unite so that we have one government calling the shots for over 200 countries that are very culturally different. We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses, and those should be celebrated and led over by the people in those communities. You know, somebody in Germany should not be deciding what's going on here in Canada and what's important to the Canadian people. And even just our economies are so different. Our cultural values are different. Our land mass is different. And unless you live here and understand the people, there's no way you can rule over them. So this one size fits all blanket is ridiculous. Even you guys in the States, you go down to the southern states, it's very different than when you're in Manhattan, New York. There is no one size fits all blanket. And we've got to get over this. Oh, the only way the world is going to survive is if we are all under one government and we're all under one roof. Well, have you ever had, 50 people living under one roof for more than 3 days? It gets pretty nasty. So no.
We got another question from Barry. He says, what are your thoughts on central banking system and reforming the Bank of Canada, since this affects people every day?
Oh, that's a Mark Carney question. Mark Carney's book, Values.
He is an international banker, so yeah.
Exactly. Do you know he was the only foreign banker in the UK to ever run the Bank of UK? The only foreign national to ever run that bank. And if you're listening to the UK members of parliament there, they are angry about what he did. And did you know as well that Mr. Mark Carney was working at, I believe it was Sachs down in the States when you guys
Goldman
had your
Sachs,
Goldman Sachs, thank you. When you guys had your big housing crisis. Well, he's the one that brought in all those rules, which caused the housing crisis to happen. And then he magically swooped in with a solution.
He saved the world economy, so we should thank him.
Right. And if anybody is paying attention, he's also
But he also helped crash it, but we forgive him for that. He saved it after he created the crisis. He created the crisis, and then he played the whole, Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. And so he saved us, and that's all that we really need to care about. Even though he created the whole thing in the first place.
Correct. It was his plan. And if anybody understands the Basel IV system, which came into effect last year, Basel IV system is about asset-backed banking. Because right now, our banks you can put $100 into the bank, and they will leave $1 in the bank and take that $99 and then lend it out to somebody else and lend it out to somebody else and lend it out to somebody else.
1 to 100 reserves requirement.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct. So the banks don't actually have money. And so now that they're talking about going to asset-backed banking, it means that the banks I believe it's this year or next year, have to have 73% assets in their bank to match every dollar. So for every dollar they claim to have on their balance sheet, they actually have to have 73 cents in the bank of that dollar.
Well, that's
And
a
this
lot
is my
better backing than 1 to 100, right?
It is, but here's the problem. Banks have loaned out so much credit to people that they'll never have that 73 cents, which means because they can't meet the legislation, the Basel IV system, they are now going to go bankrupt. And what has happened here in Canada back in, I believe it was 2016, our federal government put in legislation called the bail-in. So instead of the government coming and saving the banks and bailing them out, giving them all kinds of money like they did back in 2008, the banks now have the authority to take your money that was put in the bank to bail themselves out. So now the people that bank at these banks will get to back up the bank. So your money's going to disappear. At the end of the day, your money's going to disappear because the banks need to back up their balance sheets, and they're going to use your money to back up those balance sheets. And Canada has no gold, so we can't rely on any gold-backed system for Canada because Mr. Pierre Elliott Trudeau started selling it off back in the 70s, and our dear friend Justin Trudeau sold the rest of it off during his reign, I believe in 2016, 2017, something like that. He sold the rest of our gold off. So Canada has no gold. You Americans are lucky. You still have gold sitting in your Federal Reserve.
Allegedly. It's still never been audited. So I really, who knows? We honestly don't know.
Exactly. But they, at the end of the day, they have to crash the systems in order to bring in the central bank digital currency. They can't bring it in as long as the fiat currency still exists. So they have to crash it. They have to cause the economy to literally go bankrupt and shrink in on itself, fall in on itself in order to bring in the CBDCs. And our government has passed or we're working on passing legislation to bring in universal guaranteed basic income so that when the system fell and people lost their jobs and people lost their homes, then the government would be there to save them with universal guaranteed basic income. And they know because of the medical crisis that we went under several years ago when people were ordered to stay home, that when they started opening the economy, they figured out that $300 a week was enough for people not to go back to their jobs. So they already know now $1,200 a month is all they need to give you in order to crash our economy, take your jobs away, and have you stay at home and buy into the CBD system. But in order to get your universal guaranteed basic income, you know and I know that they are going to be looking at instituting some sort of biometric program so that the government has your DNA on file or some sort of control mechanism. So you can't buy or sell anything without the government's permission or move about without the government's permission. And we're seeing that system already being implemented. But we know China implements that system, but we see that the UK has started implementing that system. Nigeria has started implementing that system. And it's coming here as well. In order for the government to fully control you, they've got to own the money system, and they've got to own the power system, and they've got to own the food system. And that's what we're seeing happening if people actually start paying attention to the bills that are going through our House of Commons.
It's almost like
that'll be my job, to let you know it's coming, it's happening, and it's happening on this date.
It's almost like we're still in the Great Reset, huh? It seems like people have forgotten when King Charles announced the Great Reset at the beginning of the medical intervention period. But that program is still going on here now, and people seem to have forgotten the one world government agenda is still very much alive and well and going forward as we get caught up in our day-to-day lives and our local politics. We still have that sitting up here on top of us as we go through the Great Reset. Okay, it's been over an hour here now. I really appreciate your time. When is the election?
So the election is April 28th. It's a Monday. And unfortunately, much like you guys in the States, we have early election days. I wish they didn't, because it's a great way to cheat. And early election this year, those early go to your polls and vote, are on Easter weekend.
Do you have mail-in ballots there as well?
Yes, they have mail-in ballots, they have early voting ballots, and then they have election day. And the crazy thing is we don't need to have early ballots and early voting because our laws are such here in Canada that your employer must give you paid time off to go and vote. So why do we have early election days on the weekends? It makes zero sense.
So they can rig the elections, obviously. Wow.
Exactly.
So the 18th, so it's coming up here pretty quick. Friday, right?
Not this weekend, but next weekend.
Next Friday, the April the 18th. Get out there, vote in person.
No, don't vote early.
No,
don't give them a heads up of how you're going to vote. Vote on election day, because if they know how many votes they need to cheat by because you voted early, then they know how many votes to stuff in the ballots. So vote on election day. If you want to try and stop the fraud from happening, vote on election day, because on election day, scrutineers are actually there watching the counts happen and watching the votes go in. So vote on election day. Don't give them a heads up of how you're voting so that they can cheat.
All right. There you go. And well, let's plug you again here, your website. Go there, support, donate, get out and vote on election day on April 18th for Jody Ledgerwood there in Canada. I guess if you vote in Canada, you know how it works. I still don't. Someday maybe I'll figure it out. But we do appreciate Jody giving us the Canadian civics lesson. I think I've learned a little bit more about how it works there. And what's your podcast also that we can plug, and anything else that you want to plug before we let you go here?
So our podcast is tfmreport.com. That TFM stands for Truth for Media, report.com. And you can see all of my stances on my Instagram, my X account, my Facebook account, and it's all my name, Jody Ledgerwood.
I didn't see your X on your website, so.
No, because we couldn't get, I guess, an icon or whatever with the website we use. We weren't able to get an icon for our Twitter.
That's weird. X. I'm gonna go follow you over there, but yeah, there's your podcast website.
Yes.
There you go. So,
thank you.
But I would say most important right now is again your campaign site here. Let's put that down at the bottom. Everybody go visit there and check out Jody's campaign. Together we are the change.
Nothing happens unless we're doing it together.
Indeed. Thank you very much for your time, Jody.
You're welcome.
I'm going to let you go now and move on with the rest of the news. Oh, real quickly, I wanted to let you know some Canadian news here. The United States has confirmed the U.S. ambassador to Canada, Peter Hoekstra, a former Michigan GOP congressman and state party chair, has been confirmed by the U.S. Senate and is the new U.S. ambassador to Canada. That just happened today. So we have a new ambassador to Canada there.
Thanks for the information.
And yeah, I think that's about all we got. Good luck in the election. I hope you win. And good luck in the debate as well. And I hope you can change hearts and minds at the very least. And like you say, get people to stop doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, because that's crazy, man.
Exactly. Thank you for your time and giving me a space to vent a little. Thank you.
I will tag you. I'm going to reload it to because we're live streaming on the X right now. I didn't tag you because I didn't think you had an X, but I will. When I reload it, I'll tag you on there so you could share it around. By the way, we're on Facebook, YouTube, X, Bitchute, Odysee, Rumble, and these other video game ones, Twitch and Kick. But I don't think no one's watching on there. But we do get a couple hundred on all of the other channels. So if you're in Canada, please support Jody Ledgerwood's campaign.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one, Jody. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Bye. All right, Jody, great candidate there out of Canada, running as an independent. Quite striking that yeah, if you're part of the political parties there, you're just a puppet of the party. I would say much the same here is the case. So go support Jody and her campaign efforts. All right, let's take our live commercial break here at the halftime. I'm going to play my AI commercial here, and then we'll get to the crazy news of the day. Here is the commercial for the halftime break.
Is your business stuck in the slow lane? Rev up success with Abazaba Enterprises. From razor-sharp accounting to seamless QuickBooks mastery, we've got your back. Consulting that sparks growth, payroll that's always on time, and taxes done with precision. Call 559-577-9250 now. Abazaba.
Barry reminded me we're on Twitch too. Well, those are like for video gamers. Nobody's watching about the news on there. Maybe someday they would. I don't know. Kids, I don't get it. They watch people playing video games, and somehow that they're not even playing the video games themselves. They're watching other people play video games. I don't get it at all, but the young generation here, that's like a thing. I don't know. I know they do it. I don't get what the entertaining value of it is, but it's very popular with the youth. So anyway, that's what's going on those channels, on Twitch and Kick and what's the other one? I don't even know. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to Weaponized News on this Wednesday edition. We're back from the commercial break. We just had a great interview with Jody Ledgerwood there, running for office in Canada, trying to make a difference, trying to make a change, trying to wake people up to the tyranny we're seeing all over the Western world, the whole world really, but we're really seeing it because we had a little bit of freedom, maybe, possibly, at least the illusion here in America and Canada. And then there should be no illusion at all after medical intervention, what all went down with that, that we have any freedom whatsoever. The PrEP Act, why they care. The good guy, MAGA won, Maha won, the good guys are in. The PrEP Act's still a law. You can't do anything about all the abuses that we suffered here. Okay, because I went to court and saw firsthand here in Clovis, California, in Fresno County, families of victims of the medical intervention that were killed at the hospital sued Clovis Community Hospital in court. I went to court. Judge dismissed it, citing the PrEP Act. So that is indeed the facts of the matter. And as long as that is on the books, we are getting no justice. We are getting no remedy for the wrongs that were done against us. Because every single judge in this country doesn't want any part of it. And they'll just cite the PrEP Act and literally laugh in your face. And so that's where we're at. Maha, MAGA. Continuing here, let's get to the news now. As I said before, we do have a new ambassador to Canada, thankfully. Maybe we don't have to go to war with Canada, even though I do very much like Canadian Bacon. That's a great film, man. But so hopefully we won't start a war here in North America with Canada anytime soon. We are in a trade war, however, and that seems to be escalating quite a bit. We'll get to what's going on here. The stock market did actually have a big rebound today, coincidentally enough. Here's Trump. Somebody at the White House is posting this photo. Let him cook. They're saying let Trump do negotiations, I guess. I don't know. That's what they're implying there. So Trump announced that the tariff on Chinese goods will increase to 125% immediately, with reciprocal tariffs on other imports will be reduced to 10% in 90 days. Here's his post on Truth Social on his media site there. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I am hereby raising the tariff charged to China by the United States to 125% effective immediately. So all your cheap Chinese goods just went up a little bit higher there. They're saying Trump, and I said this from the beginning of the tariff talks. I said these are negotiating tactics. Obviously, anybody would have a brain could see that's what he was doing. And he said too that he wants zero tariffs, but he's trying to bring everything into alignment here. So on the back of that, and then we got China's response, but one of China's responses, amongst others, is China's issued travel risk alert for the United States. The Chinese Ministry of Culture and Tourism has issued a risk alert for Chinese tourists traveling to the United States. The advisory cites the recent deterioration in Chinese-U.S. economic and trade relations, as well as domestic security concerns in the United States. This alert follows a series of actions reflecting the ongoing tensions between China and America. We'll hear now from the foreign minister spokesman, Lin Jian, says China will fight back to the end. Let's hear from him today in regard to the tariffs on China.
Question for Honorable Agency. U.S. President Donald Trump threatened China with additional 50% tariffs unless China cancels its retaliatory tariffs against U.S. until April 8th. What is China's comment? Thank you.
The U.S. abuse of tariffs seriously infringes upon the legitimate rights and interests of countries, violates WTO rules, hurts the rules-based multilateral trading system, and destabilizes global economic order. It is a typical move of unilateralism, protectionism, and economic bullying. It is rejected by the whole international community. China strongly deplores and firmly opposes this. Let me stress once again that trade wars and tariff wars have no winners, and protectionism has no way out. The Chinese people never create trouble, neither do we fear trouble. Pressuring, threatening, or extorting China is not the right way to engage with us. China will do what is necessary to firmly safeguard our legitimate and lawful rights and interests. If the U.S. insists on waging the tariffs war and trade war, regardless of the interests of both countries and the international community, China will play along to the end.
Continuing here was Simon of Weaponized News making an appearance today on George Galloway's Moat Show. Let's hear what he had to say, reading from the Chinese white paper here in regards to said tariffs. And I didn't even know you could do this, but they posted, let's see if I posted the right. That's crazy. They have a link that you can download it into a Word document. Anyway, I will post the link in the Substack, Weaponized News Substack, for those economic nerds interested. I guess this is it. It's hard to get to. Anyway, here's Simon on Galloway Show today.
Simon's on the line from Weaponized News. He's got breaking news on tonight's Trump tariffs. Don't tell me there's been more development, Simon.
Well, Mr. Galloway, greetings to you and to your worldwide audience, including, of course, the esteemed Norma. And it's not so much what has happened, but it's like, does anybody hear the single tree fall in the forest? So the Chinese, displaying a significantly different management style from Donald Trump, have in recent hours put out a white paper explaining in excruciating detail, it's very long and has no page numbers, a very long position statement on precisely the issues that they have with the current state of affairs in US-China economic affairs and trade relations. And in order that your audience can say that they are some of the few hundreds of thousands of people in the world who may actually have heard any part of this or subsequently gone and researched any part of it, bearing in mind that China has made the point that it is the West, and in particular the United States, who have set up the IMF and the World Bank and the World Trade Organization and all these kind of bodies that are implementing the rules-based international order. And this is just yet another example of when they happen to lose one hand in the bridge game that may last all night, they throw a fit and completely overturn the table. So if I may, very quickly, I'll just read the final paragraph of the conclusion of this document so that whilst we're being bombarded by commentary and opinion from Western economists, your audience and yourself, sir, actually know what the Chinese are proposing in writing. Okay, so they have said, and this is direct quote from the document, trade wars produce no winners and protectionism leads up a blind alley. The economic success of both China and the United States presents shared opportunities rather than mutual threats. The US side is expected to join forces with the Chinese side to pull in the same direction, as pointed out by the two heads of state in their phone conversation earlier this year. Following the principles of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation, the two countries can address their respective concerns through equal-footed dialogue and consultation and jointly promote the healthy, stable, and sustainable development of bilateral economic and trade relations. And I hope that Professor Wolf had the opportunity to hear that while he was waiting to come on with you, because I think that that's a very, very responsible and reasonable tone put out in writing by the Chinese government today.
Yes, and pigs may fly. The idea that Trump is going to reciprocate with that kind of sober level-headedness presupposes a different Donald Trump to the one we've seen over the last few days, few weeks, and maybe even few years. But thanks for it, Simon. That was the voice.
Oh, yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Simon, for that. And your appearance representing Weaponized News on George Galloway Moat Show. We appreciate it. Let's see. Here's the actual post. And again, I will post the link for anybody interested. Here's the link, and then you got to go through. And again, it's one of these documents. It's a pain in the, here it is in a, I don't know if Simon did this or they did it, but anyway, here it is in a Word document, 35 pages. And I will post the link to it for anybody interested in China's response to the 125% tariff. So it was 104% yesterday. Now it's 125% today. And that escalated quickly, didn't it? Okay, continuing, what's happening in the EU? EU approves tariffs on U.S. goods amid trade dispute. The European Union has approved tariffs on approximately $23 billion worth of American goods set to take effect starting next Tuesday, April 15th. These tariffs ranging between 10% and 25% target a variety of U.S. products, including soybeans. We need to get rid of soybeans altogether. They're GMO anyway, most of them. Motorcycles and orange juice. The decision follows a series of trade disputes with the U.S. responding to what they consider unjustified U.S. tariffs. The move has been nearly unanimously supported by EU member states, with Hungary dissenting. So we have trade war going on now with the EU, apparently. I don't know why anybody wants soybeans. Soybeans suck. And the large majority are GMO soaked in glyphosate anyway. But if you read your labels, which is a conspiracy theory, and they're trying to get rid of in Canada even having labels, you would see that the freaking soy is in all kind of stuff. And you're like, why the hell is soy in this? You know what I mean? But anyway, just know if it has soy in the ingredient, I'd say 95%, probably 99% chance it's GMO and laden with glyphosate. Public service announcement for those that don't know. Anyway, don't even read your label. It's a conspiracy theory to read ingredients and products that you consume. The Dow, for those that care, did for those who are retirement, 401ks, and so on, pensions, or your retail investors, as they say, the stock market did bounce back today. Dow surges 2,900 points. S&P 500 posts biggest gain since 2008 on Trump tariff reversal. And so Trump did put a pause. He's authorized a 90-day pause on his reciprocal tariffs on many countries here now. But the big dog is China. And so we're seeing that play out as we just reported. Continuing here, yeah, the stock market went green again today. And so those that know, the haves in our haves and have not system, they made big money today, right? $5.5 trillion was added back to the stock market today. And so what is it? Quick math says we're still down 6.5 trillion since Trump took office. Estimated number there. So overall, still down big. But NASDAQ 100 soars, biggest gain since 2008. It ain't over yet. It ain't over. Not even close. Key tech companies like Tesla, Nvidia, Apple, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Google saw significant gains. Whoop-de-freaking-do. Hate all of those companies. Literally hate their guts. They hate our guts, so you should hate their guts. Yeah, great. We love being censored, banned, having illegal monopoly business practices exercised against us. We just love it in the free market, as they scream free market in your face, right? And so we just love it. Gold prices surge by $100 in his historic daily gain. The price of gold experienced a significant increase, rising by an approximate $100 in a single day. The surge marked the largest intra-day gain for gold since 2016, with the price reaching up to $3,098.70. That's down. The record high was like 3,200, over that even. So it's still down, not past the record high, but largest single day gain since 2016 for the gold. Tesla. buy your battery-powered car, or you hate the environment. 2 years ago, the Democrats told us. Now they'll literally slit your throat and light your car on fire if you drive a Tesla. Funny how things change so quickly here now in American politics. But Tesla stock, as we reported, like over the last year, it's down like 40% or something. At one time, it was a blue chip stock looked upon as like the greatest investment ever if you bought it when it first went on the market. Anyway, today we saw Tesla stock surge nearly 20% in a day. So that's a very large increase, marking one of the largest daily gains since May of 2013. So, hey, it's risky. It's risky to drive a Tesla nowadays with all the negativity against Elon Musk and Doge. But hey, he made big money today with the price going back up 20+%. Continuing here, U.S. government eyes crypto golden age. That's here now from the Treasury Secretary about that. Regulatory impediments to blockchain stablecoins and new payment systems. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Yeah, they're rolling out the digital. It's already mostly digital, but they're going to make it 100% digital. There will be no escape, no anonymity, no privacy, social credit control system for your own good, for your health, of course. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent today.
We will take a close look at regulatory impediments to blockchain, stablecoins, and new payment systems. And we will consider reforms to unleash the awesome power of the American capital markets. Americans deserve a financial services industry that works for all Americans, including and especially Main Street. Under President Trump's leadership, the Treasury Department and I will deliver that to you. Thank you.
Awesome. The digital slave system's coming into fruition. So freaking awesome, man. Don't worry. Trust the plan. The Patriots are in control. What do these idiots say? Oh, XRP. Really? Okay. What does Denver say? Yeah, it is. It does have the estrogen, indeed, as well. I'm even more concerned about the friggin' glyphosate than the estrogen, though, and the GMO. But that is also. The estrogen is also an issue with the soy. It is indeed. Trump urges passage of tax cut bill for economic boom. Trump urged Republicans in the House to pass a tax cut bill immediately, emphasizing its importance to the nation's economic growth. The bill aims to extend the tax cuts from the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which are set to expire. It did lower your payroll tax. It did do that a little bit. What are they saying? Yeah. Anyway, that's on Congress. They set fiscal policy here now. Trump urges companies to relocate to the United States now. That's what he's been saying. This is incentive to produce in America. And so Trump said sometime yesterday or early morning today now, Trump recently stated on his Truth Social, great time for companies to move to the United States, citing benefits such as zero tariffs, quick electrical and energy hookups, and no environmental delays. He mentioned that companies like Apple, among others, are already relocating to the U.S. in record numbers. Well, they're not going to lose their profit margin, so you can expect to see increased prices because they already had a massive profit margin using slave labor to produce these goods. Imagine what it's going to be like if they have to pay U.S. wages. Well, I guess you can still. What is the federal minimum wage? I think it's still like $7 and some like $7.50 something. Here in California, we're progressive, you see, so it's $20 for fast food workers, the minimum wage, and for I don't even know what it is now for field workers. Field workers, it's like $16.50. I want to say $16.50, maybe $17. Literally no skills, can't speak English. That's a lot of money. Still, even with all this inflation, for literally for having no skills at all. You know what I'm saying? And entry-level positions, working at fast food is an entry-level position, like your first job for most people. No skills, that's where you go and learn skills. $20 an hour here in California. So maybe, I don't know what the minimum wage laws are in other states. Of course, they would not come to California because they're definitely not paying these high minimum wage for their factory workers, and much of it's automated now anyway. That's the whole conundrum now, isn't it? Even if they do bring their manufacturing plants back to America, a large majority of these jobs are going to be filled by automation and robotics. Trump reverses water appliance regulations. And so I didn't even realize this was a thing. I kind of, like in the back of my mind, knew it. You know what I mean? I know I do hate those stupid LED light bulbs. Those freaking things suck. All right. I want my incandescent light bulbs back. And that's what they said they're going to do. And they better damn well do it. Trump administration. But I guess that they had like governors, you know what I mean? Governors in shower heads that regulated the flow of water. I didn't even know that was a thing. Like I said, I kind of knew, but that's a thing. As it's raining and freaking flooding, and the government will literally spit in your face and say we're in a drought, right? Anyway, Trump signed an executive order to reverse regulations on water appliances, including shower heads that were implemented during the Biden administration. The order aims to increase consumer choice by allowing the purchase of higher water flow appliances. Yeah, I like that. That's a good thing. I want higher water flow. I want my incandescent light bulbs back. Trump order challenges state climate laws. This is the stupidest thing ever, right? We're here in California, we're leading the world in climate change to oppress you. Yesterday, Trump signed an executive order aimed at stopping the enforcement of state and local related laws related to climate change. The order specifically targets states like California, New York, and Vermont, challenging their policies on carbon taxes, cap and trade systems, freaking scams. It just makes me mad thinking about it. It's a scam. Cap and trade system is a freaking scam. And other environmental regulations. That's a good thing Trump's doing. He's just mad he didn't get in on that scam earlier. But anyway, they're going to fight that in court. How the hell are you going to regulate the climate of the world from Vermont? You know what I mean? It's just scams. That's all it is. Kash Patel out. Daniel Driscoll in at ATF. Abolish the ATF. Do we need a tyrannical alcohol, tobacco, and firearms and explosives agency out of the federal government? No, we don't. Eliminate it. Kash Patel has been removed from his position as acting director of the ATF and replaced by U.S. Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll. The transition occurred after Patel was confirmed as FBI director, and the decision to appoint Driscoll was made in February. I guess it's just official today. Yeah, abolish them, abolish the ATF, abolish the FBI, get rid of them. Oh, but how can we? They're making giant drug busts. No Fakes Act reintroduced to combat AI deepfakes. Bipartisan. Anytime you hear bipartisan, we're in trouble. Chris Coons and Marsha Blackburn introduced the No Fakes Act, a bipartisan legislation effort aimed at protecting individuals from unauthorized AI-generated replicas, such as deep fakes and voice clones. The bill seeks to establish a federal intellectual property right in a person's voice and likeness, addressing concerns over privacy and misuse of the technology. Over 10 freaking years ago, YouTube claimed copyright on my own voice. I did a video of me talking. Nothing else, no clips, nothing. Just me talking, and YouTube copyright flagged me on it and said they own my voice. Maybe I can sue YouTube if this passes. Oh, that's right. I don't have enough money for a lawyer to sue them, so they get away with another crime. Anyway, I agree with it on its face, but as we know, it's going to be used and abused by those that have money for lawyers, and the rest of us are going to get effed over by it like everything else. Indeed, that will be the case here. Make no mistake about it. Continuing. White House ignores pronoun email from reporters. I thought this was kind of funny because they're still trying to do this thing of the pronouns. So if you send your email, if you're a quote reporter, a propagandist for the government, essentially, if you want to do whatever, I guess get access to those in the Trump administration, and the signature line in your email has he, her, them, they, all this BS, then they just ignore you, which they should, honestly, because you're not a serious person. You're a freaking clown. And I reposted this story saying my pronouns on LinkedIn are clown world. And so there you go. Continuing here. Oh, what do we got? King Charles sighting as he's fighting cancer allegedly, and the evil demons that live inside him. King Charles III and Queen Camilla, his wife, allegedly, both lizard people, allegedly, met with another lizard, Pope Francis, allegedly. King Charles III and Queen Camilla, I guess is how you pronounce it, met with Pope Francis in a private audience at the Vatican. So all the tyrants are getting together there. Bless their souls. Bless their souls indeed. We do have images. Do we have images of it? Oh, yeah. Look at this piece of crap. Here you go. Let's put old King Charles up on the screen. There you go. Look at this piece of garbage. Mr. Sausage Fingers. Mr. Great Reset, actually. Mr. Great Reset there. Meeting with the Pope. Oh, yeah. Isn't it wonderful to be a tyrant and the biggest welfare queen in the world? And look at these guys' hats in the background. Those look pretty Nazi-ish to me. I don't know. Just saying. There you go. So they're the good guys, and we're not. So that big meeting of the lizard people, tyrannical maniacs, happened today. Pope Francis congratulated the King and Queen on their 20th wedding anniversary, and both leaders exchanged well wishes for their health. The Vatican confirmed the exchange of gifts and ongoing discussions about a potential state visit to the Holy See. Isn't that so heart-touching? Continuing here, Meta whistleblower. Just when we thought Zuckerberg was a bro, and they took away the fact checkers on Facebook, 2 days ago? And so Facebook's wide open free speech platform. And so now they just steal your data and profile you and track and trace and social engineer you. They don't censor you anymore, allegedly, and throttle you and shadow ban you and like this. But turns out Mark Zuckerberg pledged himself a free speech champion, as we know. He drinks beer, riding a surfboard. He's a tech bro, libertarian now. He's a good guy, one of the good guys. Reformed lizard person, Mark Zuckerberg. Let's hear from this whistleblower. Says he may not be as cool as we think.
Mark Zuckerberg pledged himself a free speech champion. Yet I witnessed Meta work hand in glove with the Chinese Communist Party to construct and test custom-built censorship tools that silenced and censored their critics. When Beijing demanded that Facebook delete the account of a prominent Chinese dissident living on American soil, they did it, and then lied to Congress when asked about the incident in a Senate hearing. The willingness to censor was not the only troubling thing I witnessed. I watched as executives decided to provide the Chinese Communist Party with access to Meta user data, including that of Americans.
Yeah, well, the U.S. government did the same thing. So they're selling your data to the highest bidder. So I guess Zuckerberg's not the bro we thought, right? I'm shocked, let me tell you. Old Stalmer, the Fabian socialist over there in UK. A lot of tyranny coming out of UK lately. It's getting really bad. Here he's advocating for 16-year-olds to vote. Let's watch this short clip.
We will definitely get it done. It's a manifesto commitment and we intend to honour it. I think that if you're old enough to go out to work, if you're old enough to pay your taxes, then you are entitled to have a say on how your taxes are spent. And also we do have voting at a younger age in different parts of the United Kingdom, and the sky didn't fall in. It's a commitment we made, it's a commitment we...
And next will be send you to war at 16, of course. Here's the very dystopic report. The UK government is using AI software to issue pre-crime arrests of people they believe to be future killers. Well, anything for our safety, right? Let's watch this report. Quite dystopic. We are there now in the future. All of your dystopic sci-fi movies were actually documentaries, and they're coming true.
The Prime Minister's office in the UK is testing software to predict if someone will become a killer later in life.
Look at me. Positive for Howard Marks. I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Dubin to take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours and 4 minutes.
It's a modern-day version of the movie Minority Report, where technology is used to predict and arrest people before they commit murders.
Placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks. Give the man his hat.
The future can be seen.
All we have to run on are the images that they produce.
We see what they see.
There hasn't been a murder in 6 years. There's nothing wrong with the system. It is perfect. I agree. Murder can be stopped.
Similar to the film, the Ministry of Justice is using the Homicide Prediction Project to gather police and government data to create profiles and assess risk, now titled Sharing Data to Improve Risk Assessment. State Watch submitted a Freedom of Information request to get more details about the collaboration with police and the UK's Division of Public Safety. The government explains the pilot program reviews offender characteristics and assists in determining risk assessment for homicides. The Ministry of Justice states it's for research and policy only, not to be used within the court system.
Exactly what it is you're looking for. Flaws. You ever get any false positives? We are arresting individuals who have broken no law. But they will. The fact that you prevented it from happening doesn't change the fact that it was going to happen.
The system can't be wrong.
Run! Wait!
You say something, Chief?
No. You're in a lot of trouble, John. I have a warrant in my pocket that says murder.
The documents reveal a data sharing agreement that released information on a range of people between 100,000 and 500,000 to create what they call a predictive tool. The data includes information from cases involving victims, witnesses, missing persons, suspects, and anyone flagged as a danger. The project also expands its system to include factors such as mental health, addiction, suicide, disability, and vulnerability. All information dates back to before 2015, including demographic data like age, gender, and ethnicity. Predictive models are already used within the UK. England and Wales use the offender assessment system to evaluate risk for individuals in custody and on probation within the community. A Ministry of Justice study found that these algorithms were more accurate for white offenders and less effective for black and mixed ethnicity offenders. State Watch researchers argue that these tools are flawed because they rely on data from a system that is institutionally racist and biased against low-income communities. They point to a 2023 government study that used statistical analysis to predict murder based on past offenses. The study, which aimed to improve future predictions of serious reoffending, found ethnicity bias in these predictive tools.
From 20th Century Fox.
He set me up. He set me up.
And DreamWorks Pictures.
Who's the victim? I've never heard of him, but I'm supposed to kill him in less than 36 hours.
He's gonna get her. Tom Cruise.
I need your help. If you contain information, I need to know how to get at it.
In a Steven Spielberg film.
I have to know. I have to find out what happened in my life.
On June 21st, everybody runs. Minority Report.
We're there now. Apparently, and I always said for a long time that the government don't care if you kill people. It's about getting rid of the bodies. They actually want you to. And what the hell, if they can catch you up in a murder case, then they even that much more better. And as you saw in that report, they're targeting the white people, as you would, because the system is systemically racist. So very dystopic. Well, they have a king and queen still in UK, right? So that's dystopia. Allegedly, we got out from underneath that system, 250 years ago here in America. So very dystopic out of the UK. Okay, on to, we got a few more stories. We got, of course, aardvark tyranny going on there, and their maniac behavior is never ending. But let's hear from old Ron Paul here about the $1 trillion war budget, dare I say? Oh, excuse me, defense budget coming out of the Trump White House.
Too many wars and we're spending too much money at home. So what are we going to do about it? We've been telling people they shouldn't do that, but they just aren't listening. Well, we've applauded, this new committee, Doge and Musk, and even Trump, and even we praised them. But it doesn't look like it's getting very far. And because the news item that we've discovered today that sort of dampens our enthusiasm is the announcement by the administration. Hegseth says Pentagon will get its first $1 trillion DOD budget. And then if you read the article in Anti-War, they say, next year, because of some hidden ways they hide the spending and the momentum, they're saying that the military budget next year could be $2 trillion. I'll tell people listening, don't sweat it. we'll never make it that far. You know, if we're going to spend like that, there may be a conclusion to all this. So it's rather disturbing. And I'm going to check with Chris, see if he's been disturbed by $1 trillion. Maybe he's not going to get upset until it's $2 trillion. How about that, Chris?
I don't know. I hope we don't get that far down. But I think you're right, Dr. Paul. I don't know if we would make it to $2 trillion. Yeah, you're 100% correct. We started off hot. The Trump administration, we were excited ourselves. Actual cutting with Doge was happening. Finally, you know, this is something that never happens. But as the weeks go on, we started to notice, you know, this is only like leftist stuff, good stuff that was being cut, but only the Democrats were upset. And anybody who's been around a little while knows that our problem is not simply the Democrats, it's Democrats and Republicans. And the Republicans are not upset. And in fact, Pete Hegseth.
There you go. Our problem is the government. And as I continue to say here, there is no freaking deep state. It's the government, because we heard for years and years and years. Oh, even before the phrase deep state, they said, "Oh, there's a shadow government, and you need to be concerned about who's really running things." I was like, "It's the government, man." I got on that kick for a minute, and I was like, "No, this is BS. It's the government. Every single one of them, from your freaking dog catcher all the way to a secret spy from outer space." It's the freaking government, all of them. If you work for the government, you have no integrity and you're a piece of garbage. Sorry. That's the reality of the situation. Get a new job. How do you work for psychopathic killers? That's who you work for if you work for the government. Psychopathic killers. It's just disgusting. More of the tyranny coming from our government. Yeah, they had Ron Paul tricked for the first month. Me too, kind of. But you guys, if you watch the show regularly, you know that I said, yeah, I like that they're cutting the government with the Doge, exposing all this corruption. No one gets in trouble. No one gets in trouble. And I said, be careful what you wish for, right? Because they're going to replace it with AI, technocracy, scientific dictatorship. And that's exactly what's happening here now. All for the aardvarks, right? Well, they're a big part of it, at least. USCIS policy, United States Citizen and Immigration Services policy, has introduced a new policy, a new policy effective immediately, which considers anti-Semitic activity on social media and physical harassment of aardvark individuals as grounds for denying immigration benefits. This policy affects applications for lawful permanent residence, status visas, and other immigration benefits. The decision to implement this policy has sparked a debate about the balance between combating hate and protecting free speech, with some viewing it as a necessary step to fight anti-Semitism, while others see it as an overreach by government that could potentially impact freedom of expression. It was a setup the whole time. If you go on the X, they're bashing the freaking aardvarks all over the place, rightfully so, in many cases. Don't hate them just because they're aardvarks. Hate them for their deeds, at least. You know what I'm saying? But it's everywhere, and it was allowed to happen on purpose to profile you, and now they got you, and you're a freaking anti-Semitic hate criminal. Thank you very much. Thank the Lord of Aardvark land, because Mike Huckabee is confirmed as the U.S. ambassador to Aardvark land. Christian Zionist piece of trash, Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas. Was there ever any doubt? It's official now. This piece of garbage can call for Armageddon in our name. Very touching. U.S. sanctions Iran's nuclear program entities before Oman talks. Today, the United States imposed new sanctions on 5 Iranian entities and 1 individual for their alleged support of Iran's nuclear program. These sanctions were announced by the U.S. Department of the Treasury and target entities linked to the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran. The move comes ahead of planned indirect talks between Iran and the United States in Oman, indicating heightened tensions and ongoing efforts to address Iran's nuclear activities. Really? They're going to have a nuke in 2 weeks since 9/11. They've been saying this bullshit. Apparently, reports say we're staging bombers all over the region. There was a Diego Garcia and other military bases, and aardvarks are preparing for an attack on Iran. Not good. Not freaking good at all. And we're in a war right now with Yemen, the Houthis, but they're terrorists, so freaking kill them all, right? U.S. warns against support for Houthis. The United States designated the Houthis a foreign terrorist organization, or FTO. Following this designation, the United States has issued warnings against any country or commercial entity providing support to the Houthis, including activities such as offloading ships and supplying oil at Houthi-controlled ports. These actions are considered potential violations of U.S. law, and the U.S. has stated it will not tolerate such support. Or you may just be droned. I added that part, but is that not too far off from reality? I truly don't think so. So we're in an undeclared, illegal, unconstitutional foreign war of aggression against Yemen, and literally no one cares because they're terrorists, allegedly, according to our State Department. Wow. That's where we're at here, 25 years in to the never-ending war on terror. But hey, MAGA Trump, he's a peace, Nick. He's the peace candidate, right? Right. Here's a shocking poll. All these people need to be put in the humanitarian quarantine camps to quarantine them of hate. And again, I don't trust any of these polls, but we'll read it to you just for the sake of reporting it, as it has everyone shocked and outraged in aardvark land, aka U.S. Congress. A recent polling data indicates a significant shift in American public opinion toward aardvark land, with 53% of U.S. adults now expressing an unfavorable view, up from 42% in March of 2022. This change spans across political affiliations, with notable increases in unfavorable views among Democrats and Republicans. Specifically, 70% of Democrats and 50% of Republicans under the age of 50 hold negative views of aardvark land. What could be causing this? I don't know. Genocide? Ethnic cleansing? I don't know. Them literally posting war crimes on the social media interwebs? What could be causing this unfavorable view? I'm sure it's hate of their, quote, religion, right? Right. That's what's really causing it. And we need a crackdown here in America, because we're not going to put up with this. All right. Final stories of the day here. Turkey, aardvark land, discussed deconfliction in Syria. Turkey and aardvark land have initiated technical talks to establish a deconfliction mechanism in Syria aimed at preventing military incidents between their forces. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan confirmed these discussions, emphasizing that Turkey has no intention of entering into armed conflict with aardvark land. But I thought you care about the poor Palestinians. That's what Erdogan freaking barks all day about. Oh, but no intention of ever doing anything militarily to defend them. Only the Houthis, right? Only the damn terrorist Houthis would do such a thing. The talks follow recent aardvark strikes in Syria and are focused solely on military coordination, not broader diplomatic normalization. Let's hear from old Erdogan, full of hot air as far as I'm concerned. But let's hear from him what he had to say about it. Probably more hot air, actually.
Kıymetli milletvekillerimiz, bölgemizde ve dünyada yaşanan gelişmeler çok önemli bir değişimin eşiğinde, hatta coğrafyamız itibariyle merkezinde olduğumuzu gösteriyor. İkinci Cihan Harbi sonrasında inşa edilen Soğuk Savaş'ın bitimiyle adeta kökleşen küresel sistem açıkçası temelden çatırdıyor. Neoliberal ekonomik ve siyasal düzenin yerine daha korumacı bir yapının yükselmekte olduğunu görüyoruz. Sadece Asya'da, Avrupa'da, Amerika'da değil, hemen her yerde devletler toplumu ve ekonomiyi güçlendirmeyi amaçlayan politikalar üretiyor. Ticaretten güvenliğe, savunmadan nüfus oranına çok geniş bir yelpazede yeni mücadele dönemine hazırlık yapılıyor. Uluslararası siyasetin neredeyse tüm aktörleri yeni arayışlara girdi. Gümrük tarifeleri üzerinden alevlenen ticaret savaşlarının küresel ölçekte bir etki uyandıracağı anlaşılıyor. Büyük küçük demeden herkesi etkileyecek şiddetli bir kasırganın geldiğini söylemek abartılı bir yaklaşım olmayacaktır. Dünyamız özellikle ekonomi ve askeri kapasite bakımından tek kutuplu bir yapıdan çok kutuplu bir mimariye doğru hızla yol almaktadır. Son aylarda üst üste gelen haberleri işte bu yeni dönemin doğum sancıları olarak değerlendirmemiz gerekiyor. Şunu büyük bir gururla bir kez daha söylemek arzusundayım. Tarihi olduğu kadar sancılı da olan bu süreci en iyi okuyan, en iyi yöneten, sahada ve masada en güçlü konumda bulunan ülkelerden biri Türkiye'dir.
There you go. What Simon and I reported on for over a year, moving away from a unipolar world into a multipolar world in a new era. From old Erdogan, president of Turkey, always saber rattling about how he hates the aardvarks, but literally never doing anything, still trading with them, lying that he's boycotting them, and on it goes. As it does appear more and more every day, all of these world leaders are in the same club, literally laughing at the serf soldiers and poor people they send off to die in their wars. Truly horrific. We're now at 2 hours. Where are we at here? 2 hours. I saw that Denver said he dropped a bowl on his toe and he has a swollen. Well, because you're being mean to aardvarks. That's why. On the interwebs, Denver. That's why that happened. We do have a documentary. I'm not going to play it today as we're already at 2 hours and 13 minutes, but I found another good one, deep dive about the whole aardvark situation, about the history of it. Very good one, actually, that we shall play in the near future here, but a deep dive. It's an old documentary from like 1987, and somehow it's still on YouTube. It's buried on YouTube with only like 494 views, but I listened to a good over a half hour of it. I was like, damn, I cannot believe this is even on YouTube, but it's like shadow banned out of existence. Anyway, we will have to play this in the very near future. It's quite striking about aardvark history here, laying it all out. You got to watch it. I don't even, what do you say? What do you say to these people? They're antithetical to the Bible, to your alleged Western Christian beliefs. It's very striking indeed. Indeed it is. And we see the tyranny now coming. Any criticism, and you will be deported, droned. The White House was floating yesterday, deport American citizens to friggin' El Salvador Supermax prisons for being mean to aardvarks. It's like, wow. It's escalating quite quickly here now, isn't it? All right. I appreciate everybody tuning in. There's a new one from Kramos on the old YouTube. Thank you for joining us on the YouTube. From Chile. Greetings, Kramos. Greetings from sunny California over here. What they're saying in the chat here, yeah, there is nothing done. Barry kindly asked if he needs state health care for his hurt toe. And yeah, there is nothing that you can do for a broke toe or sprained toe or whatever. I guess put a splint on it, try to wrap it, try to not, hit it again, but there's really not much you can do for it. You could go to the doctor, pay, I don't know, thousands of dollars, maybe be euthanized there. And they'll say, well, we fixed it. You're no longer with us. Thank you very much. Here's a $100,000 bill. They would do that for you probably and try to pump you full of miracles. But besides that, yeah, there's nothing you could really do for it. So, oh, damn. Barry said there's a drone back over his house. I hope you're joking, Barry. It's getting to be no joking matter. Rolling out pre-time in the UK. You got a big lizard meeting, the king, queen, and pope. Like, It's getting creepy, man. It's getting creepy here on April 9th, 2025. We do appreciate Jody Ledgerwood, her run there for MP in Canada. Let's plug her one more time before we go out. Here is her website. So everyone interested in her campaign can go there and support her and learn what she's all about. A lot of information here. I think we barely scratched the surface there in over an hour interview with her. And so we do support her time, and I do appreciate her independent thinking and her run for office there in Canada. Together, we are the change. Everybody go check her out. Awesome lady. Thank you, Barry, for introducing us. That's all we got for today on Weaponized News. We'll be back here tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Thursday? We'll be back here tomorrow on Thursday. I don't think I have any guests. Do I? No, I don't think I do. It'll just be me tomorrow with the news and you. Thank you for tuning in. Let me go to the channels quickly, see who, if anyone, is on the Odysee. Who do we got on Odysee? We got Barry. Thank you, Barry. We have Huffman. Anybody else? That's it. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odysee and keeping that chat lively. It is appreciated. The Bitchute. Let's see who's on the Bitchute. If anybody. Is anybody watching live on the Bitchute? A few people. Thank you for tuning in on the Bitchute. Appreciate your viewership there. The old Rock fan or Rumble. I'm still saying Rock fan. We got banned off there. The Rumble. Thank you guys for keeping that chat very lively on the Rumble. It's appreciated. The YouTube. The YouTube. Bob's just barely popping in. Shout out, Bob. We missed you. It was a very good interview with Jody. You may want to take a look at that. They said Semites, descendants of Shem, are the aardvarks, which the aardvarks are not. Indeed, I've heard such things. We'll get to playing these documentaries here. I got a bunch of them I'm coming across now that I'm digging into it about the aardvarks' history, and it's quite shocking, to say the least. Way before Aardvark, the new incarnation of Aardvark clan. It's essentially Babylon, right? I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is. And everything, it's a satanic inversion is what it is. The Talmud is the anti-Bible. It's very dark and disturbing and disgusting, actually, that we have to bow down to these cretins. All right. Bitchute banned in UK today. Wow. Barry saying Bitchute was banned in the UK today. Aren't they from the UK? Probably be banned on Bitchute next. Wouldn't surprise me. You know what I mean? Not any fault of theirs, but just due to government regulation. I think Bitchute is out of the UK, aren't they? Oh, maybe Bitchute not be around much more. Thank you for tuning in on the YouTube. Those there, we tried to skirt the lines of community standards as to not be censored and banned there. I think we did okay today. We shall see, as it's very just make up whatever, you know what I'm saying? But shout out to the Facebook audience. We do appreciate that. And Twitch, for what it's worth, Kick, and X. Thank you guys for tuning in on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. As always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and liberty. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of Weaponized News as we continue to report the march toward one world government, scientific dictatorship,